Hey everybody, my name is Martin. Today I'm going to be talking about the return of hockey and the return of the NHL. In 2020, we will be seeing the first ever Stanley Cup qualifiers be played. In these qualifiers, there will be a best of 5 series played between the 8 teams in each conference. The other 8 teams will be playing in a round robin to see where they will be seated in the playoffs. We will be seeing 9 straight days of hockey, and we also might be seeing 9 straight days of 5 to 6 games played per day, depending on how long these series actually last. The first game that will be played in qualifying matches will be between the New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes. The New York Rangers finished 7th place in the Metropolitan Division, 3 places under the Carolina Hurricanes, who finished 4th. The Rangers finished with 79 points in 70 games played, and the Carolina Hurricanes finished with 81 points in only 68 games played. The storylines going into this series will be the 3 goalies that the Rangers have and the 2 goalies that the Carolina Hurricanes have. The New York Rangers have Henrik Lundqvist, Alexander Georgiev, and they have Steichen on their roster. And even if one were to fail in the first game, they have 2 more goalies that they can rely on to pick up the series and win them a round or 2, even maybe going to the final. But in this case, I don't think that's going to be for them. I think they're still a year or 2 behind on their rebuild, even though it's going amazing for them. I think maybe they can make some noises playoffs, but I think the next year or 2 are going to be pretty good for them. And for the Carolina Hurricanes, they have both Peter Mrazek and James Reimer on the roster, and I think they're both starting capable. But even if one were to go down or not play as well, they have one to back up for them. They also have the return of Dougie Hamilton and Sami Vatanen off an injury. They picked up Vatanen off trade deadline for the injury that Dougie Hamilton had suffered, but now after the pause, they now have both healthy and ready to go, making their defense like 3 times as strong. And then not only that, but the Rangers have Chris Kreider returning to further solidify their forward group, with who they already have Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad. Panarin having 69 games played but having 95 points, which made him a Ted Lindsay Award finalist for the most outstanding player as voted by his peers. The second Eastern Conference game that will be played in the qualifying rounds was between the Florida Panthers and the New York Islanders. The Florida Panthers finished with 78 points in 69 games played for 4th place in the Atlantic Division, and the New York Islanders finished with 80 points in 68 games played for 6th place in the Metropolitan Division. The big storyline heading into the Florida Panthers and New York Islanders matchup is going to be defense and goaltending. The Florida Panthers have defenseman Aaron Ekblad returning to the lineup off an injury during the pause. They also have Sergei Bobrovsky, their goaltender, who has to pick up on his playoff form, or else he's not going to make it along in the series with the Florida Panthers. He had a .900 save percentage and a 3.23 goals against average this season, which is not going to cut it in the playoffs, especially against a team like the New York Islanders, who have an amazing structure behind Coach Barry Trotz. And they also have defenseman Adam Pelech returning off an injury, along with Andy Green, who they recently acquired during the trade deadline, further solidifying the defense, making it even stronger. The third and final Eastern Conference game that will be played on August 1st will be between the Montreal Canadiens and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Montreal Canadiens finished in 5th place in the Atlantic with 71 points in 71 games played, whereas the Penguins finished with 86 points in only 69 games played for 3rd place in the Metro. The biggest storyline heading into this Canadiens versus Penguins series will be goaltending and the underdog story from the Montreal Canadiens, who many believe wouldn't and shouldn't really be in this playoffs anyways, against experience with the Pittsburgh Penguins and those 2 cups they won in 2016 and 2017 with Crosby and Malkin, Letang and Murray. But speaking about Murray, goaltending with the Penguins will be between Matt Murray and Tristan Jarry, and who will be getting the starting job. Matt Murray had an .899 save percentage this season, whereas Tristan Jarry had over a .920 save percentage. I believe Tristan Jarry will be starting the series, but if he has a little bit of rust going in, they might have to switch to Murray, and I'm not sure Murray is going to save them the series. But that goes back to the experience that the Penguins have with Crosby and the core they have there, and that's going up against the underdogs in the Montreal Canadiens. And their goaltending story will be with Carey Price, and whether or not he'll be the 2017 Carey Price that we've seen in the playoffs, or he's going to be the Carey Price that we've seen the past couple of years where he just hasn't been back to that form. If they want to win this series, Carey Price has to be there, and if he is there, they have a really good chance of staying in the series. The first Western Conference series we're going to be seeing played in the qualifying round is going to be between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Edmonton Oilers. The Blackhawks finished in last place in the Central with 72 points in 70 games played, and the Oilers finished with 83 points in 71 games played for second place in the Pacific Division. The headlines heading into this matchup is Corey Crawford testing positive for COVID-19. Since then, though, he has recovered, but we're going to see whether he has rust or not heading into this matchup. Also, can Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Brent Seabrook, and Duncan Keith beat Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, who had just won the Art Ross Trophy in 2020. Leon Draisaitl finished with 110 points, and Connor McDavid finished with only 97 points, right behind Draisaitl for second place in the NHL scoring. The second Western Conference qualifying round that will be played in August 1st will be between the Winnipeg Jets and the Calgary Flames. The Winnipeg Jets finished in fourth place in the Central Division with 80 points in 71 games played, while the Calgary Flames finished in third place in the Pacific Division with 79 points in 70 games played. The headline hitting in this story is strictly focused on goaltending. Will the Calgary Flames offense be able to score on Vezina Trophy finalist Connor Hellebuyck of the Winnipeg Jets? And who will the Flames have starting in net starting Day 1, Game 1? Will it be Cam Talbot or will it be Dave Riddick? We'll see. Both of them have over a 900 save percentage. Also, in terms of defense, Calgary will have Travis Hamonic out. He was the first player to opt out of the NHL. And also, Brian Little of the Winnipeg Jets will not be playing after he needs surgery after getting hit in the eardrum in November. Moving on to the second day of the qualifying rounds will be Sunday, August 2nd. The first and only Eastern Conference qualifying game that will be played will be between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Columbus Blue Jackets finished with 81 points in 70 games played, whereas the Maple Leafs finished with 81 points in 71 games played. The Columbus Blue Jackets finished in 5th place in the Metropolitan Division, whereas the Maple Leafs finished in 3rd place in the Atlantic. Now, heading into this matchup, the headlines are going to be both teams being fully healthy into this qualifying play-in round, and second is going to be goaltending. Goaltending for the Columbus Blue Jackets is as spectacular as it gets. They have goaltender Elvis Merzlikins and Joonas Korpisalo, both with over a 910 save percentage this season, with Merzlikins being over a 920 save percentage. Now, if Merzlikins is a little rusty going into the first game, which I believe he will start, they have no problem starting Joonas Korpisalo. And as for the Maple Leafs, they have goaltender Frederik Andersen, and even though in the past seasons he might have been seen as possibly a Vezina finalist, from what the story is in Toronto is that Andersen usually has the slowest starts in the beginning of seasons and maybe even the playoffs. So to see where he is in the first game is going to be huge, because they might have to throw in their backup Jack Campbell, and we'll see where that goes. And the second headline being both teams being fully healthy. Seth Jones, Cam Atkinson, and Oliver Bjorkstrand are all returning to the lineup, and possibly even Josh Anderson. And for the Maple Leafs, they have forward Ilya Mikheyev returning after having his wrist sliced in December, and throughout the whole pause he was skating, and with Jake Muzzin, defenseman from the Maple Leafs, who was also in rehab. The first Western Conference qualifying round game that will be played will be between the Nashville Predators and the Arizona Coyotes, both finishing 5th place in their respective divisions in the Central and the Pacific. The Predators finished with 78 points in 69 games played, whereas the Coyotes finished with 74 points in 70 games played. Again, heading into this matchup, we have another goaltending matchup. The Nashville Predators have both Pekka Rinne and Jussi Saros, and the Coyotes have the more dominant matchup for goaltending with Antti Raanta and Darcy Kemper, both of them having over a 920 save percentage. Antti Raanta had a 921 save percentage, whereas Darcy Kemper had a 929 save percentage. The Predators' Pekka Rinne had under a 900 save percentage at a 894 save percentage. Now, Jussi Saros had over a 910 save percentage. So you got to think that Jussi Saros is going to get the start over Raanta, even though Raanta has more playoff experience. And as for the Coyotes, they can start whoever they want, and they'll have a good backup ready to go if the other is rusty. Also, another smaller headline for the Coyotes is whether or not Taylor Hall and Phil Kessel are going to bring it in the playoffs. Phil Kessel is known for being a playoff performer, but Taylor Hall having a down season and on a contract year, you have to think they're going to have to step it up. The last and final qualifying round matchup on Sunday, August 2nd, is between the Minnesota Wild and the Vancouver Canucks. The Minnesota Wild finished with 77 points in 69 games, finishing 6th place in the Central Division, whereas the Vancouver Canucks finished with 78 points in 69 games for 4th place in the Pacific Division. Now, going into this qualifying round matchup, each team has their own story. Minnesota Wild being goaltending and the Vancouver Canucks being the young stars that they have on their team, and if they're able to carry the team through the first round and possibly into the playoffs. Now, with the Minnesota Wild, they have the question of who do they start? Do they start the backup Alex Stalock, who had over a .910 save percentage, or do they start with the starter, who is supposed to be the starter, Devan Dubnyk, who had an .890 save percentage this past year? Now, I think Alex Stalock will get the start. I don't think they trust Devan Dubnyk right now with the .890 save percentage. And as for the Vancouver Canucks, will Elias Pettersson, who is 21, and Quinn Hughes, who is 20 years old, be able to carry this team in the qualifying round? Neither of them having playoff experience, with that being said. Anyways, that's it, everybody. That's the return of hockey, the Stanley Cup qualifiers of 2020, and the NHL for you. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment. If you want to see my predictions, follow me on Twitter at @the1martin1, all caps. I'll be posting my predictions before the start of each game, each qualifying round. Stay tuned for more. I'll be making more videos after the qualifying round with playoff predictions, where I think they're going to be, how they're going to be, and maybe even a Stanley Cup final winner prediction. Anyways, that's it. Have a good day. Peace out.